This is your Armchair Detective, and today I'd like to tell you about the case of the fire at Freddy'S. The fire at Freddy's place was an unlucky business, or so it seemed anyhow. You see, Freddie Fowler was treasurer of the local musical society, and on this particular Saturday afternoon he was alone in the house going over the books on the dining room table. Just as he was getting underway, Tommy Andrews, a fellow club member and Freddie's best friend, put in an appearance. The two men chatted briefly, and then Tommy suggested they'd adjourn to the local bar for a drink. Freddie took very little persuading, of course, and they left the room by its only door. Freddie's books and money still on the table. After about an hour in the bar of the local, Freddie excused himself and headed for home. A little later, a passer-by noticed there was a fire blazing in the Fowler home and promptly rang the brigade. The fireman managed to confine the blaze to the dining room, one of the firemen crawling through the window to quell the flames from inside. To them it seemed clear that the fire had started through a live coal shooting from the fireplace and setting the curtains alight. It was at this point that the agitated Freddie Fowler arrived, apparently direct from his little get-together with his friend at the local. With Freddie was Sergeant Parsons of the local police, who'd been attracted by the noise of the fire engine. Together they clambered through the window and stood beside the fireman, surveying the damage. The curtains were completely destroyed, the carpet badly scorched, and the table, or what was left of it, was sagging against the door. "Looks a bit of a mess, Mr. Fowler," the sergeant said sympathetically. "But it could have been worse, I suppose." "Worse?" exclaimed an agitated Fowler. "Sergeant, I left £235 belonging to the musical society on that table, all the proceeds from Oklahoma." Sergeant Parsons gasped with something like real concern, because his daughter had starred in the Oklahoma production, and he felt a sense of personal involvement with the group. Then, suddenly, his eyes narrowed and he looked at Freddie Fowler in disbelief. "Sorry, Mr. Fowler, I don't believe you," he said bluntly. "There was no money lost in this fire." What was it that showed Sergeant Parsons that Freddie Fowler was foxing? The fact that the table was up against the door told the alert sergeant that someone had been in the room since Fowler and Tommy Andrews had left for the hotel via the door. Now, obviously, that someone had left again by the window, and the sergeant had a shrewd suspicion it was the treasurer himself, and so it proved. Yes, it was the usual story. Fowler had been dipping into the club funds to meet gambling debts and staged the fire not only to hide the discrepancies, but to collect on the insurance too. After leaving Andrews in the hotel, Fowler had slipped back to his house, pocketed the money, sprinkled a few live coals on the carpet, moved the table to set fire to the curtains, and made his exit through the window. However, in his haste, he forgot to replace the table, and so, instead of collecting insurance, Freddie Fowler collected a nice little jail sentence.